What up, everyone? It's your boy, Vape Memes 2020, back here again for another video. I got my boy here, Bowmaths, from the hit YouTube channel Bowmaths. Check him out.
Yeah, hey. Nice to see y'all. I bet you weren't expecting this crossover between two of your favorite YouTubers who are very well known.
For real, unironically. This is going to be the collab of the century, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Just letting you know.
Never happening again.
Exactly. I will never have this man on my channel ever again.
I might have him on mine.
Well, that'll depend.
I need the clickbait.
Also, happy Halloween and happy Reformation Day to all of y'all. I'm glad you showed up for this video because today we're going to be celebrating Halloween and Reformation Day in a very special way. For today's Halloween and Reformation Day special, I wanted to do something that's been on everyone's mind. Biblically accurate angels.
I lose sleep over it every day.
Exactly. And the reason I wanted to do this for Halloween and Reformation Day is because A, people really emphasize these angels as being like horrifying. And mind you, in some cases they're right. I will say they're right in many cases. But in addition to that, today I wanted to really embrace the spirit of Reformation Day and go back to the Bible. We want to see how well do biblically accurate angel depictions actually correspond to the Bible. How biblically accurate are these biblically accurate angels?
And as a person who has seen biblically accurate angels, I will be able to give a genuine, true, 100% objective opinion on this.
For real, for real. We will be bouncing ideas off of each other, discussing the topic a bit more at length, and we'll both try to give a bit of a ranking of how accurate each of the angel depictions we show are.
And of course, let us know your feedback in the comments. Maybe you disagree with us, in which case you're going to hell, but that's all right. Hallelujah.
For real, for real.
All right.
So, yeah, as you can see on screen here, we have an image of what's referred to as a cherubim.
That was my high school nickname.
Really?
Yeah.
I never would have guessed.
I mean, look at him.
Look at him indeed. Now, cherubim are a very fascinating form of angel. I did a lot of digging for this video because I wanted to make sure, okay, do we get this right? Cherubim are a shockingly difficult one to get right because, let me just put it this way, cherubim don't seem to define a single type of angel per se. There seems to be at least 3 different depictions of what cherubim are.
Do tell.
Okay, so first depictions of cherubim can be found in the book of Exodus and in the book of 1 Kings, chapters 6 and 7. And here it's... the depictions of cherubim are actually a lot less horrifying than most biblically accurate angel depictions. The language in Exodus seems to imply they have a single face and 2 wings, and that language is implicit in the book of Exodus, but in 1 Kings, it's a lot more explicit because it states that 1 wing of the cherubim statues that Solomon builds in his temple measured 5 cubits, and the other wing measured 5 cubits. That seems to imply there's...
That's a lot of...
Yeah, exactly. And the length of a cubit is basically from the elbow to the tip of your finger.
It's a very accurate, consistent unit of measurement.
Exactly. So, but the fact that it says, okay, 1 wing was 5 cubits long and the other wing is 5 cubits long implies that these statues of cherubim have only 2 wings, which has led a lot of people to depict these versions of cherubim as almost like sphinxes with wings, which... whether that's a fair depiction is difficult to say because there's not much detail given in the book of Exodus or 1 Kings as to their appearance. So it's difficult to really say whether or not that's how those cherubim are to be depicted, but all we know is that they have 1 face and 2 wings. That's not much to go on.
Yeah.
So how do people come up with images like this? How do people get images like this? Well, that's where Ezekiel comes in.
Our good old buddy.
Ezekiel's great, okay? I love him. The best way I could describe Ezekiel is the textbook description of the insane street preacher babbling incoherent nonsense except his incoherent nonsense was all correct.
Yeah.
And that's a horrifying thing to think about. Which may be one of the reasons why his visions of angels are so talked about. Because in addition to having horrifying demeanors, the vision that he has of God is probably one of the most striking in the Bible. And this is where a lot of the biblically accurate angel images come from. Do you mind? You want me to just go over that first chapter of Ezekiel? Because this is going to be relevant for most of the rest of it.
You go for it, man.
Okay.
It's your show, not mine. The Glory of the Lord is the title of the section. And also, for those of you following along, what version is this?
This is the English Standard Version.
The ESV.
ESV.
Alrighty. As I looked, behold, a stormy wind came out of the north, and a great cloud with brightness around it, and fire flashing forth continually, and in the midst of the fire as it were gleaming metal. And from the midst of it came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had a human likeness, but each had 4 faces, and each of them had 4 wings. Their legs were straight, and the soles of their feet were like the soles of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like burnished bronze. Under their wings on their 4 sides they had human hands, and the 4 had their faces and their wings thus. Their wings touched one another. Each one of them went straight forward, without turning as they went. As for the likeness of their faces, each had a human face. The 4 had the face of a lion on the right side, the 4 had the face of an ox on the left side, and the 4 had the face of an eagle. Such were their faces, and their wings were spread out above. Each creature had 2 wings, each of which touched the wings of another, while the 2 covered their bodies, and each went straight forward. Wherever the Spirit would go, they went, without turning as they went. As for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire, like the appearance of torches moving to and fro among the living creatures. And the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. And the living creatures darted to and fro like the appearance of a flash of lightning. Now, as I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the earth beside the living creatures, one for each of the 4 of them. As for the appearance of the wheels, and their construction, their appearance was like the gleaming of beryl, and the 4 had the same likeness, their appearance and construction being as it were a wheel within a wheel. When they went in any of their 4 directions, without turning as they went, and their rims were tall and awesome. Awesome!
I think some translations use like the term tall and dreadful. So I mean,
I prefer that, but
I do prefer it in one sense.
Yeah, it's just slang has corrupted my mind.
It happens to the worst of us.
Yeah. And the rims were tall and awesome, and the rims of all 4 were full of eyes all around. And when the living creatures went, the wheels went beside them. And when the living creatures rose from the earth, the wheels rose. Wherever the Spirit wanted to go, they went, and the wheels rose along with them, for the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. When those went, these went, and when those stood, these stood, and when those rose from the earth, these wheels rose along with them, for the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. Over the heads of the living creatures there was the likeness of an expanse, shining like awe-inspiring crystal, spread out above their heads, and under the expanse their wings were stretched out straight one towards another, and each creature had 2 wings covering its body, and when they went, I heard the sound of their wings like the sound of many waters, like the sound of the Almighty, a sound of tumult like the sound of an army. And when they stood still, they let down their wings, and there came a voice from above the expanse over their heads. When they stood still, they let down their wings. And above the expanse over their heads there was a likeness of a throne, in appearance like sapphire. And seated above the likeness of a throne was a likeness with a human appearance. And upward from what had the appearance of his waist, I saw as it were gleaming metal, like the appearance of fire enclosed all around. And downward from what had the appearance of his waist, I saw as it were the appearance of fire, and there was brightness around him. Like the appearance of the bow that is in the cloud on the day of rain, so was the appearance of the brightness all around. Such was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. And when I saw it, I fell on my face, and I heard the voice of the one speaking.
So, that's quite the introduction for a book, to put it as lightly as possible. And it's for this reason that biblically accurate angels, in my mind, have become such a big talking point. Because that first chapter is one of the most bizarre, strange series of images that you get. And this is why I think the biblically accurate angel thing took off, because it's just so strange, so unexplainable. And it's one of the reasons I want to talk about it today. From what we learn in the book of Ezekiel about how these cherubim are described, they have 4 faces. You know, one of an ox, one of a lion, one of an eagle, one of a man. Okay? They got 4 wings, and it mentions that there's hands under each of the wings, meaning that this thing has 4 arms as well. One on presumably each of the 4 axes or what have you. In addition to that, they have the feet of a calf. They have an overall human form, and in addition to that, they have the appearance of burning coals and legs like gleaming metal, which seems to imply they were just glowing completely. Now, one thing, now that you kind of know what a cherubim is from this description of Ezekiel, we can kind of get into this image. But you might notice something really weird about this image.
Bro's jacked.
Bro's jacked, first off. But you'll notice there's eyes all over his body as well. Mm-hmm. Now, this is actually one of the things that inspired me to do this video. Because as I was rereading that section from Ezekiel, and as I double-checked with another section from Ezekiel, Ezekiel chapter 10, which also discusses the appearances of angels, I noticed something weird. Something that most of these depictions get wrong.
The eyes.
The eyes. These cherubim are never described as having eyes all over their body in Ezekiel. So I wondered, where are they getting this from? And I think I know where.
Do share.
Okay. A lot of people associate these images of angels with, like, Old Testament angels. And then the New Testament whitewashes it. No, it does not.
Well, yeah, Revelation.
Revelation.
Funky,
You already know we're turning to Revelation.
What a shocker.
So, in the book of Revelation, cherubim are described a second time by John the Apostle. He writes that, quote-unquote, around the throne of God, on each side of the throne there were 4 living creatures, full of eyes in front and behind. Now you can kind of see why this tends to be associated with the vision of Ezekiel. The first living creature was like that of a lion, the second living creature like that of an ox, the third living creature with the face of a man, and the fourth living creature like an eagle in flight. And the 4 living creatures, each of them with 6 wings, are full of eyes all around and within. And day and night they never cease to say, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come.
That must be what the lion's doing.
It's possible.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, the description of cherubim in the book of Revelation is very clearly different from that given in Ezekiel. And this is why I said, when we look at cherubim in the Bible, cherubim doesn't describe just one form of angel. Cherubim seems to describe a whole bunch of different types of angels with slightly different appearances, but still with an overall similar kind of makeup. All of them are like animal-human hybrid creatures, but they are slightly different. The ones here in Revelation, for example, have 6 wings. The ones in Ezekiel have 4 wings. These ones are described as having eyes all over their body. Ezekiel's cherubim do not. And in addition to all of this, well, the last thing of note is that the cherubim in the book of Revelation, as you noticed, are the same in terms of their face as that of, like, Ezekiel. There is one with the face of a lion, one with the face of a man, one with the face of an eagle, one with the face of an ox. But there isn't any one of them that have all 4 faces on the same body. That's unique to Ezekiel's vision. And so, when I see these depictions of biblically accurate angels, it seems they're, whether intentionally or not, combining the depiction given by John in Revelation with the depiction of Ezekiel. But it seems clear that these are 2 separate things, even if they are both cherubim. So with all that in mind, let's try to rank this one. How accurate is this?
Alrighty. Well, I don't see any wheels.
There's no wheels in association with it, but for the sake of argument, we'll just say, like, this is just really hyper-focusing on the cherubim. It also...
But where the wheels went, the cherubim went. That's the important part.
That is...
I'm docking points for no wheels.
Okay, that's fair. I can't dock points for the feet of a calf or anything like that because we can't see the lower part of its body.
True.
So I'm not going to dock points there because nothing's shown. However, what I am going to dock points on is its, well, lack of luminescence.
True.
The vision of Ezekiel shows that these angels are glowing like burning coals, and we really don't get this imagery here.
This also looks like a Magic the Gathering card, and I'm also going to have to deduct points for that.
Okay, fair enough. Overall, they still get some of the stuff right, most certainly. I mean, they have the lion face on the right, the ox face on the left, along with the face of a man and the face of an eagle. So that much is definitely right. I will dock points for the eyes, because like I said, that is not in the vision of Ezekiel, and this is very clearly depicting the angel from Ezekiel's vision.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, just looking at it, it does look like it has the 4 wings, and I think I will dock points, because 4 wings are shown, but we only see 2 arms.
His, from my perspective, right hand, but I guess his left hand.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or does that only have, like, 4 fingers on it?
I think it's like one of them. You ever seen those optical illusions where it's like one side of like this strange wooden structure has like clearly 2 appendages, but then as you go along, a third one is there? I think that's the thing. It's like if you look at like the base, there's definitely 4 fingers there, but one of them seems to be obscured in such a way further up the hand, so that's like it does seem to have.
Should I dock points for that?
I'm not going to dock points for the fact that one of its fingers seems to be severed.
Ezekiel never mentioned anything about a severed finger.
Okay, if you want to, okay, you know what? You can dock points. I'm going to choose not to. I think overall, I would give like a final rating of, I'd say like maybe 6.5 out of 10.
Oh, we're doing on our 10 out of 10 scale, not like a F tier, D tier.
No, let's just do numerically. I
could respect that as a math guy. You know, numbers are.
I couldn't get the tier list thing to work. I tried so desperately. I tried, please.
But overall, for any of you wondering, I did the tech setup for this. Not that that's a particularly high tech, but anyways,
it's high tech for me.
Yeah,
you would. If you saw the way I make my videos, you would probably be, like, weeping seeing that.
I weep when I watch your videos.
I don't blame you.
Okay. So you said 6.5 out of 10?
I'm going to say 6.5 out of 10. And what about you? What are your thoughts?
I'm going to go for 5.832 out of 10.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to lower my thing down to 6. And the only reason I did that is because I forgot about the fact that it didn't depict it with 4 arms. There's clearly only 2 here.
True. So, wait a second.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm gonna dock mine down to like a solid 5 out of 10.
I want it to be lower than you, so.
Okay. Well, I'm going for 5 out of 10. I don't know what you want to say.
4.12.
All right, I think that's respectable.
Yeah.
The next image we have on our list of a biblically accurate angel is this one. Now, if you've ever looked up biblically accurate angels, this is the classic one that you're going to see. Now, this is depicting the vision of Ezekiel, like the wheels that are associated with the cherubim. They're sometimes referred to as thrones, other times they're referred to as Ophanim. Sometimes in Ezekiel itself, they're referred to as the whirling wheels. Now, when I looked at this one, there were several details about this that did actually. It was very strange, to put it as lightly as possible. These angels in particular, I'll just refer to them as Ophanim, that's the typical way they're referred to. They are only talked about in Ezekiel and possibly in the book of Daniel. But the mention of them in Daniel is so brief that it's difficult to say if they even are mentioned. Because in Daniel chapter 7, it mentions, like, the Ancient of Days takes his seat on the throne, and in association with the throne are burning wheels. Whether or not those burning wheels are these angels, I'm inclined to believe they are, because in the book of Ezekiel, these are also associated with an image of the throne of God. So they probably are the same thing, but there's so little information given in Daniel, it may as well not even be there. Mm-hmm. Now, these angels are described as having wheels that gleam like a beryl, which is like a blue crystal, and they're described as a wheel within a wheel. And this is the in my mind, kind of tragic but important thing to remember about this. People often depict these angels as, frankly, a bit stranger in my mind than they really are.
Because I see 1, 2, 3, 4 wheels.
A wheel within a wheel kind of implies, a single wheel within a single wheel. So, more than likely, there's only 2 wheels here.
One thing that, intrigues me about this, though, coming from kind of a mathematics standpoint, if any of you have seen, those clickbaity, what does this shape look like in the 4th dimension YouTube videos?
Yes.
Often they're called a tesseract, looks some kind of Here, I just can put a GIF up.
Yeah, I'll put a GIF up in post. You'll see it.
But often how they kind of look like they're depicted as a cube inside of a cube, right?
Yeah.
And so I almost wonder at least when I hear a ring or a wheel inside of a wheel, that kind of to me brings about this idea humans kind of comprehend a 4th dimensional thing as being some solid within a solid, and it's kind of oscillating almost, right? There's a motion to it to help us kind of wrap our mind around it. So I almost wonder if maybe there's another dimension here that is being added.
Hold on to that thought about other dimensions, because I think once we've gone over all these angel videos, I want to make a point to improve on these angel depictions, and also discuss something infinitely more horrifying in the Bible than these angels.
Hell?
Not hell. Not hell. That's a close one. But it won't be that.
Okay.
Now, one thing that is extremely interesting about these angels that most people miss is that the wheels are described as having spokes. A bicycle wheel, how it has the projecting spokes going off of the axis. Yeah. These wheels are described as having spokes as well, with eyes all over the spokes. Just for good measure, obviously. Yeah. And in addition to that, they are also described as having wings. It's not specified how many wings. Just know that it's not just a wheel within a wheel with eyes all over the wheels, like the rims of the wheels and the spokes of the wheel, but it's also one that has wings, and presumably eyes all over the wings as well. With that in mind, how accurate is this depiction? And this is where I'm actually going to be generous with the image of what looks like a fetus in the middle, because I had a discussion with my brother about this particular depiction, and there's no good precedent in the Bible for this image of what looks like an embryo in the center of the wheels. However, I'm going to be generous here and say there is a slight precedent for it.
Okay.
Because as you read in that first chapter, it explicitly mentions that the spirit of the living creatures, the cherubim, was within the wheels.
Mm-hmm. But this isn't a cherubim.
But yeah, no, I know this isn't a cherubim, but in the vision of Ezekiel, it's stated that the spirit of the cherubim was within the wheels associated with the cherubim.
Okay, yeah.
And thus, if we interpret that embryo as the spirit, then I think you can make a case here.
Okay, fair enough.
That's about the highest praise I'm going to give the image. Horrifying as the image is, perfect for a Halloween atmosphere, it is tragically very biblically inaccurate, unfortunately.
So what would you rank it?
Well, there's no spokes, for one. There's more wheels than there really ought to be. There's really no indication of it shining or gleaming or anything like that.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. It's a black and white image.
It's a black and white image.
Maybe there is color to it, but the gleaming is so bright that it made it look like it's black and white.
You know what? I'll give it that just for the sake of argument. I think, once again, very much like the last one, I'm probably just going to have to give this a solid, maybe even a 4.5 out of 10.
Okay.
I want to be generous, but there's a lot that this depiction does genuinely get wrong.
Yeah, fair enough. I think, I'm inclined to agree with you. I think the embryo is a little bit of a stretch, but I do appreciate how like all the eyes over it made them look kind of like meat wheels. So
that's not even the worst one. We'll get to something that's so much worse than this in terms of meat wheels.
So I'm gonna give this one 4.4 repeating, which I think is 13/9 as a decimal or as a fraction.
I hate you. All right, you know what? 4.4 repeating, 4.5. I think that's a pretty reasonable one.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on to the next image, I'm going to discuss a weird controversy, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, the next image that's going to come up is that of a seraphim. Now...
It was 13/9. No, it wasn't. I'm stupid.
Is it?
No, it's not. Dang it. It's going to be 49ths.
49ths. 49ths, of course. But of course.
Silly. I wasn't thinking. That's alright.
It's okay. Listen, we all have those kind of moments.
I haven't made my videos on fractions yet, so can you really blame me?
The next image we're going to discuss will be a depiction of a seraphim. Now, the problem with seraphim is there's only one description of them in the Bible. A lot of people think that the Ophanim that are shown here are actually the most mysterious angels in the Bible and have the least mention, but the only book that explicitly mentions seraphim is the vision of Isaiah.
Which is interesting, considering I would say that, like, in terms of, like, how well known the names are, I'd say Seraphim is way more well known than Ophanim, right? But
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, Seraphim tend to be very well known, and they don't tend to be described as being as mysterious, even though, for all intents and purposes, there's very little to go on compared to almost any other angel in the Bible. Though, mind you, as I did some of the research for this video, I found there's shockingly little to go on for most angels in the Bible.
Maybe why it's such a hotly discussed topic.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we like to fill in the gaps. We don't like mystery, even when things are kind of intentionally left to be mysterious. We kind of want to fill things in. Isaiah chapter 6, verses 1 through 6 states, quote-unquote, "In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him stood the seraphim. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And one called to another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the mountains of the thresholds shook at the voice of him who called, and the house was filled with smoke. And I said, Woe is me, for I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Then one of the seraphim flew to me, having in his hand a burning coal that he had taken with tongs from the altar. And he touched my mouth and said, Behold, this has touched your lips, your guilt is taken away, and your sin is atoned for." That is the extent we get about the seraphim. However, this is where some speculative stuff comes in.
And I say there's room for speculation here because the seraphim covers their bodies, so like it's there's more interpretive freedom.
There's more interpretive freedom, but there's something I discovered a while back that has changed the way I viewed seraphim for the longest time. Seraphim is derived from the Hebrew word seraph. And this term in Hebrew means 2 separate things. When used as a noun, seraph means fiery serpent. And when it's used as a verb, it means burning. So from what we can tell of seraphim, which in Hebrew, like anything that ends with im is basically like plural. Mm-hmm. So seraphim means fiery serpents or burning ones. So at the very least, from the etymology of the word, we can gauge that these things are burning and probably serpent-like in appearance. And that should be connecting some dots, eh?
Satan.
Yep.
Was Satan a seraphim?
Hell yes.
Whoa. You just used the word where Satan is from. That was a double entendre. That was pretty clever. You got a good host here, guys.
Shut up. I will give heavy credit to one author. His name was Michael Heiser. He goes into a lot more detail on this in one of his books called The Unseen Realm. So I'd highly recommend checking that out if you want to read more about the Seraphim, but the double entendre thing that you mentioned actually works really well with Satan, because in the story of Genesis chapter 3, the one where the serpent basically tricks Eve into eating the forbidden fruit, the term used there is not Seraph. The term that was used there is Nakash, or Nahash. And that one also has two meanings. Nahash means serpent, but it also means shining one, which you might notice is very similar to the two meanings of Seraph.
Yeah, well, and you also have, like the whole morning star thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that, once again, plays really heavily into that whole shining or burning appearance. In addition to that, in Ezekiel chapter 28, it describes Satan as being, like, covered in precious stones and jewels, which is, once again, like a really poetic way of basically describing Satan as glowing, shining, gleaming, what have you. So, from all of this, we can kind of gauge that Satan is a seraphim. And if we look at some of the depictions of how Satan is used, along with the etymology of the term seraphim,
we can get more information about what they look like. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And what we can tell is that whatever these things are, they are serpent-like in appearance, but they still very clearly have feet, since in Isaiah it states that, two of the wings are being used to cover their feet.
Lizards.
Lizard men. Lizard people.
Oh my goodness.
We finally got it.
America.
Now, one of the things that's really notable, and this is the thing that convinces me that this is very likely how seraphim are to be depicted, is that we also have decent archaeological evidence to suggest this might be the case. There have been many
Did someone dig up an angel?
No. What people have dug up are seals. Like, in ancient Israel, basically, kings and authorities would often take written documents and seal them with a piece of clay with, like, a seal stamp ring that they would have. Yeah. It would either be on a necklace or on a ring itself. And we've discovered multiple seals from ancient Israel, and as you'll notice from some of these, we have this depiction of a serpentine-like being with multiple wings on it. Well, the image of, like, that little circle at the bottom, the circle with wings at the bottom of the seal, and that circle on a T-like structure on the side of the seal, those are believed to be aniconic images of God. We see, like, in the Bible, some depictions of God as, like, the Son of Healing, riding on the wings of the morning glory and stuff like that. So, given that these sorts of books of the Bible were being written around the same time period in which we find these seals, it seems that the descriptions of God used by the prophets in ancient Israel and ancient Judah may have inspired a lot of these depictions of seraphim and God. In addition to this image, there's also a bunch of seals being shown here, which also, as you could see in most of these seals, show, well, serpent-like beings with multiple wings. And in some cases, with the top two seals, that circle thing is once again supposed to be an aniconic image of God, because if you remember your Old Testament, well, especially the Ten Commandments, you aren't supposed to make any graven images of God, which is why they use just a circle to basically represent insert God here, effectively. And you'll notice that this circle in the top left seal is flanked by two serpents, likely seraphim, and in the top right seal is being effectively praised by one of the seraphim, which makes sense given that the seraphim are consistently singing, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts." So with all that in mind, even though it's not explicit in the Bible, we have pretty good reason to believe that these seraphim are serpentine in appearance and likely shining and or burning.
What are the numbers on your...
This was taken from, I actually found, a research paper on, ancient Near Eastern studies. This is just, a screenshot I took of one of the figures in the paper.
Okay.
With all that in mind, this is an image of a seraphim. I believe the artist here is Dan Hillier. I will have to check that later. If I'm wrong, I will edit that.
I thought you were going to say Dan Harmon.
Harmon?
Do you know who that is?
No, I don't.
He's like the creator of Rick and Morty, as well as Community. And,
no.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Well, he's like one of the creators of those shows.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan Harmon is really big into drawing angels.
With all this in mind, now, what we know about these angels is that they got 6 wings, 2 cover the face, 2 cover the feet, they are likely serpentine in appearance, and they are glowing and or burning. Now, this one's a tough one for me because it seems largely accurate.
Well, we can't really see the serpent.
Yeah.
But
mind you, it's covering up basic... I'm going to say, this image is very accurate in my mind, at least in part because the trick that he played with the wings. Mm-hmm. It's not just covering up the feet, it's covering up everything, which isn't necessarily explicitly there, but could be implied.
What about the falling person at the bottom?
I have no idea why that's there. It's interesting that that's being used for scale, so... Mind you, it doesn't state how big these seraphim are, so... Once again, I can't really dock any marks for inaccuracy on that either. What I'm going to say about this image is that the way they place the wings is done perfectly in a way that I can't dock marks for inaccuracy, because it covers up so much with the wings.
Yeah, and I appreciate the symmetry. That looks nice.
Mm-hmm. The only criticism I'm going to give is that you can't really get an image of it be like glowing or burning or shining, but once again, this is a black and white image, and as you mentioned before, there might be something that is glowing, but because of how bright it is, it's not perceivable or what have you. So,
what about the single eye in the middle, though?
That's one of the areas where I think I will dock inaccuracies, because it becomes really difficult to gauge where this thing's body is, or if it's all supposed to be a face, or what have you. So, for that reason, I'm going to dock some marks, but overall, I would actually say this is one of the better depictions. I'd give it a solid 7.5, maybe even 7.8 out of 10.
I don't like the person falling at the bottom. That takes me out of it. It looks like, we're going to be nice and stylish with this and put like a dramatic little flair in there. So I'm going to give it a solid tau out of 10.
Tau out of 10?
Being 2 pi.
2 pi.
So 6.28 ... yeah.
Yeah, no, okay, that checks out. Okay, that works. The second image, if I'm not mistaken, is actually made by the exact same artist, and it was also titled as being a seraphim. This one...
you could see it's kind of similar artistically.
It is very similar artistically. However, this one I'm going to be a lot harsher to, because...
Yeah. There's way more than 6 wings for one.
Yeah, way more than 6 wings. There are eyes. There are a bunch of eyes all over its body, if you can even call that a body. It looks like it's just a bunch of wings all stapled together.
Kind of reminds me of a spider.
Oh, man. I'm not going to dock mark. I want to dock marks for that, because we've had the spider discussion before.
Many times.
But I can't dock marks for that, because that doesn't necessarily make it inaccurate. I am going to say, the fact that it has way more than 6 wings, the fact that it's covered in eyes, which isn't stated in the Bible at all, the fact that it doesn't even seem to have a body, as nice as the illustration is, this might be the worst one so far in terms of biblical accuracy, to be honest.
Wait a second.
What?
I think with this one, like if you look at the clouds and stuff, I'm pretty sure for this one, it was just purely mirrored. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't think the other one is mirrored.
Is it possible? I don't know.
Well, the clouds at the very least aren't mirrored.
Yeah, no, that one's definitely not a mirror image.
Yeah, because of that asymmetry.
There's a slight amount of asymmetry in the previous image, yeah.
They made it like a DNA helix. Asymmetric down there. Yeah, anyways. Yeah, see.
Hey.
I remember.
Stay in your lane.
I remember biology. hey, Bait Muse 2020 hasn't done much bio yet. So
I have not done much bio.
I could become a mathematical biology channel and take over your realm there.
I might do some videos discussing biology and theology. Just because there might be... I have some fun things that might be interesting with that. But that's beside the point.
Like how all the sulfur bonds look like...
I might do that. I might genuinely do... If I could find that video again...
Misinformation on Instagram Reels.
Man... We love spreading misinformation online, my man. We love spreading misinformation.
Yeah, don't trust a word I say at Bowmaths. It's all wrong.
Yeah, exactly. 2 plus 2, it's still hotly debated as to whether or not that equals 4. The teachers and mathematicians won't tell you that, but once you do a little bit of digging, you'll see.
If you're working in the integers modulo 3, then 2 plus 2
I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear about your spellcraft that you call math. Okay, here's the thing I'm going to say. I'd say with like basically most of the images we've looked at so far, the art itself is very good. Don't take our ratings as saying the art is bad. We're just trying to say how accurate is it to the Bible. And here, this is the worst one yet. I'm giving this a solid 1 because
solid 1.
It gets nothing right. It genuinely doesn't get anything right.
Yeah, fair enough. I do appreciate that there's not a man falling below at this time.
I mean, yeah, that wasn't in the Bible either. Isaiah was never depicted as perilously falling through the sky.
Yeah.
So... But I don't know. What would you rank it? Because I feel like...
I'll give it a... I'll give it a solid square root of 2 on this one. So that's about 1.41-ish.
Okay. Being a little more generous than I am, even.
That's because I appreciated the man not falling there. And also, I think, like, one could argue with, like, the wings. Like, yeah, it looks like there's way more than 6, but we also don't have any, like, information on the geometry of the wings, so maybe the wings are kind of, like, sort of batarang shaped or whatever, right?
I guess you could, but you also can see how there's, like, these branching points of where that would clearly be, like, the point in which the feathers of the wing and such would, and bones and such.
But we still see there's kind of like 6 pieces, right? Like there's like we can kind of imagine them as 6 arcs. So like for that reason, like I'm not saying they're great wings, but I'm saying like one could argue.
Argue it
because again, like we're doing this from a very bird centric point of view of what a wing should look like, right?
Yeah, and not every. I mean, like you look at like insects, and it's like you get a lot of weird variety in wing design there.
Yeah, never mind.
Well, I mean,
hit your glasses.
I did hit my glasses. I'm not a nerd. Shut up. I only spent multiple hours combing through.
I'm gonna make several fake accounts to make fun of your glasses in the comments.
Kind of hope you do, honestly. I want you to do that.
Yeah.
It'll boost the algorithm. But, like, no, I'm not a nerd. I just went through a concordance for, like, 2 hours, finding every single reference to angels in the Bible to be absolutely certain we got the right information for a video. A nerd would never do something like that.
Yeah. And I'm not a nerd either. Because a nerd would never be not a mathematician.
Yeah, there's never been a nerd who was a mathematician.
Yeah.
That's never happened before.
Those ones all become engineers.
That fair? Real? Okay, so this one, 1 out of 10 and square root of 2 out of 10?
Yep.
Okay, moving on from here.
Ooh.
This one, what was the artist's name? Funky. I can't remember the artist's name. I think it was literally something like GenderTerror. It's like, I think that was unironic. No, it is. You can see in the bottom, GT. GenderTerror. Okay, I'm actually right. This one's made by GenderTerror. This one definitely seems to be a depiction of the cherubim in Ezekiel's vision, given the 4 heads, one with a lion, ox, human, and eagle. Mm-hmm. However, once again, this one has significant inaccuracies to the Bible. For one, remember, the cherubim... Let's see.
I don't think the heads are in the right orientation, right?
Let's check. I got the notes.
Like, isn't the eagle supposed to be in the back?
There we go. These are the criteria we're looking for.
Yeah. Lion on right, ox on left. I'm seeing
Yeah, no, so the lion is on the wrong side.
Well, no. Relative to us. And so relative to him, it's on the left and right. So that's fine, I think.
Oh, okay.
But the eagle looks like it's just kind of protruding out of his neck like a goiter instead of like being from the back of his head.
Yeah, so that's already a...
That being said, though, does it actually specify where the eagle face is?
It doesn't, but, like, the only possible orientation is either we have the lion head on the left, ox on the right, and then it's either the human face out front or the eagle face out front. So...
Right, but we are also kind of, like, assuming, like, some sort of inherent, like, four directions religious symbolism here. But, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be that,
It doesn't necessarily have to be. So, I mean, you could be a bit lenient. The only issue is this image makes it a lot more difficult to be lenient because of the fact that...
There's no body.
Yeah. And in addition to that, it has 6 wings.
Maybe it does have a body. Maybe it's like diving forward. It's like completely like in like a
planking position.
Yeah. Basically, he's in the planking position, right? Like his arms are kind of like back. His like feet are back, right? And the wings are just hiding it.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not going to be generous with that. I'm sorry. I can't be generous with that one. So we don't get any images of the arms, nor of the legs with the ox feet and stuff. Mm-hmm. The one area where I will say this actually is slightly more accurate than some depictions, and it's probably just because it has color, the cherubim does seem to be glowing a little bit.
True. Although it kind of, I don't know if that's glowing, it kind of looks like the light's coming from an outside source, to be honest.
Though some of the eyes do look like they're...
Yeah, the eyes, sure.
So
they got a little
I'll
bit
give
of
some points there. But the fact that it has the wrong number of wings, the body seems to be missing, the orientation of the heads is a bit wonky. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, you might notice there's eyes on all of its wings and stuff, which, once again, that was not in Ezekiel's vision.
There's no wheels.
No wheels.
No wheels.
I'm not saying
that's a deal breaker for me.
That is? Okay, in all fairness, there's some stuff that is accurate. The fact that it's glowing... It still has the 4 heads, but there's so much stuff that's missing here that I think I gotta give this, like, 2.5, maybe if I'm being generous, a 3.
Oh, and we also forgot to mention the whole, like, mismatch of the 4 wings and the 6 wings, right? Again, that kind of is occurring once again.
That's a big issue there, because it's like, this image in particular... seems to be a really unfortunate hybridization of Ezekiel's vision of cherubim and John's vision of cherubim in the book of Revelation.
Right.
And the thing is, those are very clearly separate things.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, I'm going for a solid 2.5 out of 10.
2.5 out of 10? Alright, I will do E out of 10.
I hate you.
Come on, I gotta stick to the caricature now.
Okay, you know what? I respect it. I respect the bit.
How many of my subscribers are actually going to watch this? They don't even watch half my video.
Shut up. Shut up.
I said half of my videos.
No, I'm saying shut up to that. Stop beating yourself down.
Okay.
We're all about positivity here on Vape Memes 20.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Just go watch the Drano challenge.
Yeah, don't watch that.
Ooh.
Following this image, we have another image of the Ophanim from Ezekiel's vision.
What's with the chains?
I don't know. My best guess is it's playing off of that one passage from... Which one was it? 1 Peter or 2 Peter? Which describes, like, angels being kept in chains because of their transgressions.
Oh.
That's my best guess.
I mean, this dude looks like he's done some transgressions.
He might have. You never know. So, and considering the whole, demons are basically just fallen angels, I guess this would technically still work. Actually, more or less, this one's probably one of the better depictions of Ophanim, I'd argue. It still gets a fair bit wrong, unfortunately.
No spokes?
No spokes, for one. Yeah, that's probably one of the bigger ones.
Do you actually have any pictures with spokes?
I do.
Oh, nice. Right.
Unfortunately, even that one.
I looked through all of them. You sent me over email.
I sent this man like 20 images and videos of these biblically accurate angels.
Only half of them loaded, so
what?
I only saw half of them.
folks, we are dealing with technical genius on my end.
Mm-hmm.
As you can tell from any of the videos that you've watched so far, I am a master at video editing and anything related to technology.
Yeah. You're so cool.
Overall, I think this one's fairly accurate. We do get a appearance of it kind of glowing a little bit, which seems to be close to the descriptions of the wheels either burning or gleaming like a barrel. Once again, I'm going to be generous. The eye in the center of this image...
Could be the soul.
Yeah, it could be the spirit of the living creatures.
Yeah, spirit, yeah.
So, I'll be generous here and say, sure, that's fine. But the fact that there's very clearly 4 wheels instead of, only 2... it's supposed to be a wheel within a wheel, not a wheel within a wheel within a wheel within a wheel.
Although, it kind of looks like they connect at the top, so... Is it like it kind of like to me it kind of looks like there's 2 wheels around the eye and then there's like kind of a frame of like a sphere around it almost.
Oh, okay. Either way,
because it looks like it's completely connected on kind of like that outside.
Yeah, no, you are right. At the same time, that's also still not in the passage.
No, I know. I'm saying that's like things to deduct marks for.
Oh yeah, fair enough. One thing, like I said, that this does get right that most depictions don't, this thing definitely has wings.
Yep.
Which, I will say, actually gives it a fair amount more points than most of them.
Although the wings are looking kind of sad.
He does not look like he's in the best shape overall. Yeah. One thing I will say is that all these images definitely fits the Halloween theme of the episode. They are spooky in nature. They are weird and just frankly uncomfortable to look at, more or less.
What do you mean? I look at this every day.
I wake up. My daily affirmations are looking at these images. And
I wake up, I'm physically incapable of moving, and I just see one of these.
I'd say overall, it has some significant flaws, but it gets things right that most images don't.
Oh, Kieran, did we want to start recording this? I got you.
You're worrying me. Don't do this again.
We've been going for almost an hour, dang, girl.
Have we been?
That's crazy. Oh. Yeah.
Overall, I think this one, probably, I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, like, I'm viewing it as, like, the 2 wheels in the middle, but then we got like the circular kind of cage on the outside. Mm-hmm. And I think that cage kind of like takes really me out of it a little more. Yeah, especially because the wings are on the cage and not the wheels as well, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give this one a. Oh, I also with like your whole argument of like the spirit being the eye in the middle. I don't love that much because there's already eyes around the outside, so that there's not really much of a distinction there.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So I'm gonna give this one a. It's gonna be a little different than yours. I'm gonna give it a 4.3692.
Okay, we'll go with that then. All right.
I hope you plan to do like some like statistical analysis of these methods, or of these like rankings that we're doing, because my number's really gonna make that fun.
This one, I'm not doing any statistical analysis. I'm not touching statistical analysis with a 10-foot pole.
Bro, you're a biologist. That's like half of what you do.
I know. I don't want to do it on my downtime. This one is once again the image of the cherubim given in Ezekiel, and
I have thoughts on this.
I have thoughts. Yeah. There's a part of me that wants to really dock points here, and I'm going to in some respects. I guess if you are going for a strictly literal, like, discussion of the text where it says, there was a face of a man, face of a lion, face of an ox, face of an eagle, you do kind of get that with the various skulls there, but...
Yeah, but why their skulls?
Yeah, why skulls instead of faces?
I would argue that a skull doesn't have the face.
That's... Yeah, no, you're right, yeah. There's also the fact that you get this weird furry body with an eye sticking out of it in the center.
And you know what else I really don't like about it? So they get the feet right.
Yeah, they get the feet right, yes.
Which is extremely undercut and undermined by the fact that they have the guy doing like an anime girl pose with like the legs together.
I hate that you pointed that out.
That's like the first thing I noted.
But technically, it for all technical purposes, that's not necessarily something that makes it biblically inaccurate, tragically.
I don't think.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
Here's areas where I'm definitely going to dock marks.
Yeah. The
eyes, there's a bunch of eyes all over it. Mm-hmm. The fact that its heads are decapitated and stripped of all their flesh and skin for no discernible reason. And they're all forward-facing.
Yeah.
Remember, there was a specific orientation given to the heads where one of them was on the left, one's on the right, one's forward-facing, one's back-facing. And that's not present here.
Yeah. I mean, technically it's in the correct order if you were to, rotate the ring or whatever, right? But
yes, but it's...
the relationship to each other is accurate, but...
I'm gonna keep it real with you. I'm not making excuses.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of it, but
I'm going for a solid. I think once again 2.5 out of 10 on this one. There's a lot that 3.5 out of 10. It at the very least gets the 4 wings right, and the ox feet, which is often missed. So, yeah, 3.5 out of 10. I think.
Yeah, I don't like the way the knees are curved.
Yeah, but are you gonna dock marks for that? I mean, I guess it's true. The Bible doesn't explicitly say its knees are kind of together like an anime girl.
or is this... Wait. Actually, there's a bit of a shadow in the line. Or is it its legs actually crossed? Now that I look a little closer at it.
Oh, it might be.
Which I don't think is better.
That's also not... Yeah, that's also not something that's really mentioned, though. Like I said, the orientation of the legs isn't...
bro looks like he's got to go to the bathroom. Yeah, I'll give it a pi out of 10. I haven't given pi yet, so...
Yeah, I think that's fair. Our next image...
Oh, there's writing.
We're gonna shrink our... What? We're gonna... It doesn't actually cut it off, mind you. It doesn't cut off the actual image. But here, we see Ezekiel's vision, and we see both the cherubim on the left and the Ophanim on the right. Now...
The Ophanim's got the spokes.
Yep. Okay, this one's got the spokes, and while really faint, it does seem to have eyes all over the rims of the wheels. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't have eyes on the spokes of the wheels. Nor does it have wings on the wheels.
True.
So for that reason, as much as it gets the spokes right, and I want to give a decent chunk of points for that because almost none of them get that right, but it gets a lot of other things wrong. Mm-hmm. The one thing I will say, the slightly off blue color of the wheels is something that isn't seen in most depictions, but it does fit the description given in Ezekiel of it kind of gleaming like beryl, which is a light bluish gemstone.
Right.
So for the Ophanim, for the wheels, I'm willing to give it a 5.5 out of 10.
Yeah?
Maybe even a 6 out of 10 if I'm being generous. Which I will be. 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm gonna... I'm leaning towards Tau again, but
Well...
Maybe Tau plus 0.1 out of 10.
Tau plus 0.1 out of 10. Yeah. I can respect that.
Yeah.
With regards to the cherubim depiction given here, okay, I have big problems with this one. For one, it definitely has more than 4 wings, and in fact seems to have 4 bodies, each with 2 wings.
Yeah, it just looks like a bunch of dudes conjoined together.
Yeah. It gets the glowing coals appearance right. But and it also gets the ox feet right. But it doesn't show any human hands.
And it also says, like, in the scripture, it says faces, right? Not separate heads, and this clearly is separate heads, right?
So there's a lot that it gets right that most depictions don't, but it also gets certain things wrong that most depictions get right. So I'm gonna give this a solid 4 out of 10. Honestly, it's kind of on the low ranking side because of just how many issues it has.
Yeah. I think I don't know, like, I don't really like it very much. No, but, like, in terms of, like, it's like, almost like it gets the major things wrong, like you were saying, right? And I feel like that's...
It manages to get subtle details right while getting, like, the biggest points of the depiction wrong, which is really weird.
I think I'll do a square root of 5 out of 10.
Of course you will.
Yeah, that's 2 point something.
We'll check that later. How's that sound? Going back to this. All right, next depiction.
Whoa.
That is the only depiction I've ever seen of a seraphim that takes everything we discussed into account.
Yeah, it's just got the snake body. It's got the 6 wings.
Now, the thing that makes this difficult is it gets a lot of the implicit details right, but in order to get it right, it also has to, by default, get 2 things wrong. It is not covering its feet with its wings, nor is it covering its face with its wings.
What if we look at it from behind?
Okay, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? Fine. You know what? I'll give it to you. Once again, I think because it's a black and white image, every single time it doesn't get the glowing part right. Are we just gonna basically say, like, because it's a black and white image and it's really difficult to get a gleaming appearance?
I mean, I'd say that, like, that's something we could, like, award bonus points to if we specifically see it, right? But I don't know if it's something that would warrant docking points, per se. And at least to be consistent with how we've been doing it anyways. But...
Yeah. But overall, I mean, there's not much about the Seraphim, to be honest. And in addition to that, you could just, looking at the finer details, there's not eyes all over it. Mm-hmm. Which is, once again, something people get wrong more often than not with Seraphim.
Yeah.
So, by and large, I'd actually rank this one really highly. Like, I'd give this probably a 9 out of 10, if not even 10, because it seems to get basically everything right.
Yeah, I was thinking G out of 10.
G out of 10?
For the physics fans out there, 9.8 meters per second squared. Except just no meters per second squared.
No, we're going to do a 9.8 meters per second squared.
Out of 10. Yeah, the units of our ranking is actually in meters per second squared. Our ranking is acceleration.
Real. Now, this one unfortunately cuts out some of the image, but you can kind of just see... We're going to focus on the left side of this, because this is...
Because it says this.
Yes. This is taken from a YouTube thumbnail on, I think, probably the most popular video on the topic of biblically accurate angels. And from the thumbnail, you can very clearly see what he's trying to get at. These more traditional depictions of angels are inaccurate, and the stuff on the left is accurate. But how accurate is it? Because he inverted the colors for some reason, this becomes a lot more difficult to examine. However, one thing I can say is, like, there's both a cherubim, seraphim, and Ophanim in this image. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to give it 3 separate rankings.
Ophanim, no spokes, no wings.
More than 2 wheels.
There's an eye in the middle.
Which I'm going to be lenient and say that's the spirit of the living creatures.
I'm not going to be lenient because there's eyes on the wheels as well.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, with the Ophanim depiction, yeah, that's probably just going to be a solid 4 out of 10. It gets most of the major details right, but it adds a wheel. There's no spokes. There's no wings. And yeah, so I'd say yeah, I'll go 5 out of 10. How's that sound? 5 out of 10 for the Ophanim.
Okay, I'll go 4.123 repeating, but like it's the whole 1, 2, 3 repeating. So basically like 123 999ths plus 4.
Okay.
Out of 10.
I hate you. Okay, we'll go with that. The Seraphim depiction. We can tell that this is supposed to be a seraphim because it's covering its eyes, or it's covering its face with the wings. But there only seem to be 2 wings. The 2 wings are also covered with eyes.
See, okay, for me, I'm having a really hard time distinguishing the bottom part as 2 different angels. It kind of looks like the same one, but...
I think we're going to be generous and say it's trying to depict all 3 of the different angels, but in doing
I can't see very well with the ring light in my eyes. I mean, professionals use ring lights, right?
Professionals do use ring lights, mind you. That is true.
You should have taken your glasses off, though, because you're probably just going to look like dazed the whole time.
I am dazed. I'm always dazed. True. Have you ever spoken to me before? I'm always dazed.
Yeah.
Now, overall, this image really gets to the core of, I think, the issue with the biblically accurate angel trend, because it does emphasize the scariness of these angels. That was there. Okay.
Poor Kieran's learning how OBS works, but now we can just do this and we can see him way better.
This emphasizes the scariness of these angels well, and like their kind of otherworldliness, which I think is a good thing to keep in mind. But it does so at the cost of biblical accuracy, because seraphim don't look like this. This seraphim has 2 wings with eyes all over the wings, which is not in the text. In fact, the one detail about seraphim we know is that they have 6 wings, which isn't there.
True.
I think for this reason, I'm going to give this maybe like a... I'm probably going to have to give it a 1.5 out of 10 because it does get the wings covering the face right, but that's about the only thing it gets right.
Yeah. I'd give it a natural logarithm of 2 out of 10.
If you keep this up,
I think that's 0.6 something.
You know, I'm going to have to...
Hey, you use that number a lot in your chemistry classes, don't you?
Yes, that's fine. You realize I'm going to have to go in and do the editing, post this, and then do like natural logarithm of 2 is approximately equal to this post-production.
That's what you... Well, A, that means I'm a good math teacher because I'm forcing you to do math on your own account.
That's fine.
B, in your thumbnail, what you should do is you can have like a little like clickbait section and be like ranking angels and then like natural log of 2 question mark.
This is... Ladies and gentlemen, if you're still with us, I hope you're enjoying yourselves.
They're not. They're watching it because they told you that they would.
There's going to be... Dude, this video is going to get 3 views total, and you know it.
And I'm going to be one of them.
I'm going to be one of them. Okay, the Cherubim. This is probably the only one that I'm going to say is relatively accurate, but that's a bit difficult. It seems to have 4 wings. It seems to have all 4 of the heads there, though it's really obscured, unfortunately. And it doesn't have eyes all over its wings, which is, once again, something people commonly get wrong with the Cherubim. But we also can't really see anything of a lower body. It's difficult to say whether or not it's because the lower body is obscured, or if it's just not there. So I'm going to say this one's relatively accurate, but it's just because it's so obscured that it's difficult to tell if there's any inaccuracies. I'll give it a 7 out of 10 just because it's hard to see if they got anything wrong.
I don't know. That's kind of lame. Just because it's hard to see if they didn't get anything wrong or not. See, I think that means it's not a very good depiction of it, right?
Okay.
The biblical description of it is very.
It is extremely detailed.
Very detailed, right?
It's detailed.
And if you're not doing it that justice, then I would say it's not super accurate.
Okay. Well, how would you rank it then?
I would rank it... pi squared over 6 out of 10. That's a significant number. It's used for a certain...
I'm done.
There's this really nice...
Hey, this is Vape Memes 2020 post-production. Since I decided to leave Beaumaths to think about what he's done for a while, I think now's a good time to mention that me and him unfortunately forgot one of what was supposed to be the main components of this video, this being ranking several videos of depictions of biblically accurate angels. So as of now, I'm going to basically give our rankings on several popular videos related to biblically accurate angels and why they got as high or as low of a ranking as they did. The first video, which should be playing on screen now, is a video titled Be Not Afraid, Ezekiel 1 by the YouTube channel Sage Arts Designs. This video depicts an Ophanim. Now, Beaumaths ranked this as a 6.01, 001, 0001, 00001, 00001, 00001, etc., etc. out of 10. And his reasons for doing so are numerous. For one, he notes that in addition to not having any spokes, the Ophanim depicted in this video also seems to have too many wheels. It's not just a wheel within a wheel, it's several more wheels in addition to that, both of which are biblically inaccurate. However, he does note that the eyes on the rims of the wheels is indeed accurate, and in addition to that, unlike most Ophanim depictions in which there seems to be a giant eye in the center of them, this video instead depicts there being like a glowing orb in the center of the Ophanim. And he says this is a very good representation because we'd speculated that maybe the central eye could be interpreted as the spirit of the living creatures talked about in Ezekiel 1. However, he doesn't tend to think of the eye as being the best representative of a spirit, given that the Ophanim are lined with eyes all over their rims. Thus, the glowing orb in the center of the Ophanim, he thinks, is a lot more representative of what a spirit might be in this context. In addition to that, he notes there are indeed wings on the Ophanim, which is a bonus. And in addition to that, he notes that the Ophanim seem to be significantly larger than several trees, which matches the description of the Ophanim being large. For me, I rank this angel depiction as a 6.5 out of 10 in terms of its biblical accuracy. One of the things that really lends itself to the accuracy of this depiction is the fact that the angel is definitely gleaming. It is very literally glowing, which does match the description given in the book of Ezekiel. However, it docks significant marks for the fact that, well, it has more wheels than what's actually described in Ezekiel, and it also lacks spokes, which is, once again, something that is described in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 10. I did strongly agree with Beaumaths when it came to the depiction of the spirit of the living creatures being represented as the glowing orb in the center of the Ophanim. That seems to be strongly accurate to what's actually described in the Bible, hence several points were given for that. In addition to that, we also see that there are eyes all over the rims of the Ophanim, which is, once again, very accurate to the original biblical description. And one point that I did give to this angel is the fact that the wheels in the video are shown to be moving extremely rapidly. And this matches what is described in the book of Ezekiel chapter 10, where the Ophanim are also referred to as the whirling wheels. The term whirling seems to strongly imply very rapid rotation. So I would argue that the rapid movement of the wheels strongly lends itself to biblical accuracy given the descriptions of the Ophanim in Ezekiel chapter 10. All of this adds up to a ranking of about 6.5, maybe if I'm generous, 6.7 out of 10 for this depiction of Ophanim in the video. So the second video that we wanted to look at, which is the video called Seraphim, Biblically Accurate Angel, produced by the YouTube channel Celestial Beings. This video, as the name implies, depicts a seraphim. Now, Beaumaths ranked this angel depiction as a Euler-Mascheroni constant out of 10. To give context, the Euler-Mascheroni constant is approximately 0.577216 out of 10. Now, his reasons for this low ranking are the following. For one, the seraphim depicted here have way too many wings, and in addition to that, there's eyes all over its body, even though that's not actually described in the Bible. In addition to that, The wings are not exactly covering any body to speak of, unlike in Isaiah chapter 6, where the wings are depicted as covering both the face and the feet. So in his words, there's no excuse that it isn't like an accurate body, because there's no body being depicted to cover. However, he does state that some of the points he gave, the reason it's not like a 0 out of 10 is because the seraphim that is shown here is depicted as burning, which, given the discussion we had about the etymology of the term seraphim, seems to be very accurate to what the seraphim would likely be depicted as. For me, I ranked this angel depiction as a 1 out of 10. It gets basically everything wrong aside from the burning fact. It seems to have anywhere from 10 to 12 wings, even though seraphim are only supposed to have 6. There's eyes all over it, even though seraphim don't actually have eyes all over their body. They don't seem to have hands or feet, and it's not like the wings are actually covering any body, so there's really no excuse there. And it's not serpentine or anything like that. Given all of these factors, this depiction of a seraphim is actually strongly biblically inaccurate, hence why I give it a 1 out of 10. The third video I want to look at is a video entitled Cherubim, Biblically Accurate Angel, which is also by the YouTube channel Celestial Beings. Now, Beaumaths ranked this angel as a 4.3 times 2 Planck's constants over 10. Now, for context, the Planck constant is 6.626 times 10 to the power of negative 34. And the best way I could describe this is that it is a value that is so small, it's basically negligible. So, in short, Beaumaths ranked this angel as effectively just 4.3 out of 10. Beaumaths gave the following reasons for his ranking. It does indeed have 4 heads. However, this seems to be drawing from Revelation in having what looks like potentially 6 wings. It doesn't have eyes all over its body, but it does have a very large eye in the center of its body, but that also isn't biblically accurate either. It does seem to have the appearance of burning coals, hence why he is giving it some credit, because that is accurate to the description of cherubim given in Ezekiel. However, it seems to lack the toes of a calf or legs in their entirety, which seems to be pretty inaccurate given the description of cherubim in the book of Ezekiel. For me, I ended up ranking this cherubim as a 3 out of 10 in terms of its biblical accuracy. It does get the 4 faces right, but it definitely seems to have more than 4 wings, which seems to be significantly inaccurate. It lacks legs, it lacks the feet of a calf. It does have a burning appearance, which is definitely biblically accurate, but it doesn't seem to have much of anything else. It lacks the hands under each of the wings, which are described in the book of Ezekiel, and there's a massive eye in the center of its chest, which is never really mentioned in the Bible. For all these reasons, even though I do believe that this art, and basically every other angel depiction we show, is actually really well done, in terms of its biblical accuracy, I gave it a 3 out of 10. The fourth video I wanted to look at is a video entitled Ophanim Simulation by the YouTube channel Alexhowardxx. Now, Beaumaths gave this Ophanim depiction a natural log of 28 over 10, which is roughly equivalent to 3.3322 over 10. His reasons for this are the following. For one, he isn't exactly a fan of the giant eye in the middle of the Ophanim representing the soul. In his mind, that seems like a bit of a stretch given how much the eye imagery is found all over the rims of the wheels and the spokes of the wheels and such. He also docked points for the fact that there are definitely more than 2 wheels on the Ophanim, and there also aren't any spokes. He does give credit for the fact that there are eyes all over the rims of the wheels, though he notes that the Ophanim depiction here is very dark. It's definitely not, gleaming like in the depiction given in the book of Ezekiel. For all these reasons, he gives it a pretty low rating in terms of its biblical accuracy. However, he does give credit where credit's due in showing that the Ophanim are pretty massive, which does seem to be the implication in the book of Ezekiel. For me, I actually rank this Ophanim pretty low in terms of its biblical accuracy, giving it a 2 out of 10. There's many reasons why I give it such low accuracy. For one, it's not gleaming, and in fact it looks a lot more fleshy in its appearance, which seems to be straying a lot from the source material. In addition to that, there are 4 wheels shown in the Ophanim as opposed to just 2. While I am a little bit more lenient than Beaumath's with regards to the central eye possibly representing the spirit, it's still a bit of a stretch. In addition to that, the Ophanim depicted here lacks spokes, it lacks wings, and while it does have eyes all over it, it doesn't seem to be rotating very rapidly. There is some rotation of the wheels, but it's definitely not all that rapid. Definitely not rapid enough for them to be referred to as whirling wheels. And in addition to that, one of the strangest additions to this video is the fact that the Ophanim is depicted speaking, which is something that Ophanim are never shown to do in the Bible. In fact, it's for this reason that a lot of people speculate as to whether or not the Ophanim are even alive or not. So the fact that the Ophanim is speaking in this video definitely strays away from the biblical source material, hence why I only give it a 2 out of 10 in terms of its biblical accuracy. The fifth and final video I wanted to look at is a video called Ophanim, Biblically Accurate Angel by the channel Celestial Beings. Beaumath's rated this angel as a pi plus 1 over 10, so approximately 4.14 over 10. The reason for Beaumath's ranking goes as follows. For one, the eyes on the wheels seems to be accurate, and in addition to that, it seems to be glowing or shiny in a sense, which seems to match with the gleaming description given in the book of Ezekiel. In addition to that, he does make sure to note, quote unquote, "Y'all already know how I feel about that eye in the middle though," which, so he definitely docked marks there. In addition to that, he notes that there seems to be too many wheels on the Ophanim and there aren't any wings, though he does note that the Ophanim are very large in size, which seems to be biblically accurate, even if the excess wheels and lack of wings aren't. For all of these reasons, he gives it a pi plus 1 over 10, or 4.14 over 10. Beaumath's also notes that there seems to be writing on the angel, which seems to be a very common motif used by the Celestial Beings YouTube channel. We saw this exact same type of writing on the Cherubim depiction and on the Seraphim depiction. So he just notes it as a creative choice. He didn't necessarily dock marks or give marks for it. He just makes sure to note that because it's a very strange, interesting, artistic motif that he hasn't seen with many of the other angel depictions. For me, I ended up giving this Ophanim depiction a 5.5 out of 10. I thought the fact that the Ophanim is depicted as very large, it seems to be gleaming. I do recognize the eye in the center as likely being the spirit of the living creatures, as mentioned in Ezekiel. It has eyes all over it, and in addition to that, the wheels of the Ophanim itself are definitely very rapidly turning, which matches the description of them being whirling wheels. So, for all of these reasons, these are the positives in which I considered it worthy of getting a 5.5 out of 10, though I did admit it got a lot of marks off for the fact that it doesn't have spokes, it doesn't have wings, and it has more wheels than what are actually described in Ezekiel. So I did dock significant marks for that, but overall, it's actually a fairly accurate representation of an Ophanim. With all that being said, let's get back to the remaining portion of the video now that I remembered to put in what I initially forgot to put in.
Now, one of the reasons I wanted to use this image in particular is because it brings up a very important question. Even though I don't think there was any intention with this thumbnail, it brings up a very important question. It says, this is what angels look like, the stuff on the left here, not this. But is that true?
No.
Depends.
Okay.
Well, you might have noticed that the 3 different types of angels we've talked about the entire time are Ophanim, the wheels, Cherubim, the 4-headed angels from Ezekiel.
But wait, there's more?
There are more.
Oh, man.
Technically, there's 9 different categories of angels, except the only problem with that is for at least 4 of those categories of angels, there's genuinely not a single description of their appearance. So there's no point in trying to tell if that's accurate because we don't know. We really don't know. But there are 2 types of angels that are also mentioned in the Bible that do have their appearance noted. These being regular old angels and archangels. Now, the thing with regular old angels is
That's the technical term.
Yeah, that's the technical term. You can actually...
And then John saw 7 regular old
angels.
blowing
That's actually,
their regular old trumpets.
That's in the original Greek, actually.
Yeah.
That's how they're described.
Well, actually, no. In the original manuscript, it switches in English and says regular old with like a little apostrophe.
Specifically King James English.
Yeah.
But with regular old angels, we get, similar to the cherubim, we actually have a few different descriptions of them. But all of them share one common feature. They are generally human-like in appearance. Some angels, such as the ones talked about in, for example, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and also a passage in Hebrews chapter 13, some of these angels are so similar to humans that people don't even recognize them as angels. They genuinely mistake them for human beings.
Among Us? Sorry.
One could say that there is an imposter among us, if you will. Don't look this up on your phone. There's a reason you're not coming on this channel again.
This is the most entertained your audience will ever be.
I can't, I don't know if I can doubt that one, to be honest. Okay, so in some cases, the angels look really human-like. In other cases, on the other hand, they definitely have a human-like appearance. Mm-hmm. They have the form of a man. But, for example, in Daniel chapter 10, verses 5 through 6, he describes looking at an angel. And he does describe him as a man, but also notes that his body was like beryl, his face had the appearance of lightning, his eyes were like fire, and his arms and legs gleamed like burnished bronze. And similarly, in Matthew chapter 28, which is basically the narrative of when Jesus has been resurrected and the tomb is now empty, it talks about one of the angels that visits the tomb, and some of the Gospels refer to these angels as men, which shows that, these angels have the appearance of men. But we also see in Matthew chapter 28 that this angel, with the appearance of a man, also appeared like lightning and with clothes as white as snow. We get 2 different descriptions of angels in the Bible from this. Some are so similar to human beings that they're mistaken for them. Others look like human beings, but are extremely luminescent. They're glowing. Yeah. But then we also get a third very interesting description of angels in Zechariah chapter 5, verse 9, where several angelic beings show up, and they are described as having the appearance of women with wings like that of a stork. Which means that this thumbnail here, which shows that the stuff on the left is how angels are actually supposed to look, and the stuff on the right is not, is actually extremely biblically inaccurate.
Oof. Was the video biblically inaccurate?
There's some of the details it definitely gets right. I'll say in many of the details it gets things right. In other details it treats speculation about how the Bible was written as like gospel truth. So I have my own issues with the video that are kind of unrelated to this topic. But just for the sake of the argument, just looking at the thumbnail alone, if we look at the depictions of angels shown here, it's not the most accurate, mind you. It definitely has the appearance of women with wings. However, the halo of light surrounding them is not something that's explicitly mentioned in Zechariah. So it does get some points docked there, and the wings, it's arguable if those are the wings of a stork.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought that was hair.
Yeah, no, I think it is wings. You can kind of see it branching off there and there.
Interesting.
But overall, I think this one gets I'd give it a solid, probably 6.5 out of 10, at least.
Yeah, I'd give it like. I also like the luminescence kind of around the head, right?
I mean, and that's the thing. A lot of angels are described as luminescent, so whether or not this is inaccurate or not is difficult to say. Zechariah doesn't explicitly mention that these women with wings were luminescent, but from other descriptions of angels, it's not exactly difficult to say it could be.
Right.
But because it doesn't explicitly say it, I'm still going to say 6.5 out of 10.
Sure. Yeah, I'll do Tau plus 0.39 out of 10.
Tau plus 0.39 out of 10?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. With all that in mind, let's stop looking at biblically accurate angel depictions and start looking at more traditional angel depictions and see, are these biblically accurate by any means? This was a photo that actually me and you took a little while back of a statue of an angel outside one of the local churches in our area. And in the case of this statue, I think we'll probably have to... I'd actually rank this probably a 9 out of 10. It is a woman with the wings of a stork, not much more to it, which is exactly how angels are described in Zechariah.
And it feels holy,
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's praying. That's biblically accurate.
Exactly.
I'm going to give this one... You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do a 9.9 repeating out of 10.
Impressive.
And 9.9 repeating is equivalent to 10. So, full marks right there, baby.
We got it. Surprisingly enough, one of the most traditional depictions of angels is one of the most biblically accurate depictions of angels. Now, unfortunately, we get to dock a lot of marks here, because...
This is why we don't go to this church.
This is... This is the only reason we don't go to this church. This is a statue of what's often described as a cherub. Now, if you remember our discussions about biblically accurate angels earlier, you may note that most cherubs... The depictions of cherubs in Ezekiel and John are definitely not anywhere close to this. So this is supposed to be a cherub, but it bears no similarity to the descriptions given in Ezekiel or John.
And it's a baby.
In fact, it's often been speculated that these depictions of cherubs kind of came from the image of Cupid. Like, it was basically a Renaissance artists taking the images of Cupid from, like, Greek mythology and implanting that as a cherub. Which, for that reason alone, means it has to, in my mind, get a 1 out of 10. It, by necessity, is not biblically accurate because it's just a straight-up rip from Greek mythology, not the Bible.
So you said 1 out of 10?
I'm giving it a 1 out of 10.
Is 1 your lowest rating?
Yeah, 1's my lowest rating.
Well, it wasn't my lowest rating because I gave a logarithm of 2 earlier, which is below 1.
Fair. I'll give it a 0 out of 10 then.
Okay.
I will actually give it a 0 out of 10 because I think I did give another one a 1 out of 10, even if it had like some slight accuracies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll give this one. I'll be nice and simple this time. I'm gonna give it a 7th out of 10.
Okay. 7th out of 10. All right.
For all you Seventh-day Adventists out there.
Of course. I'm very well respected in the Seventh-day Adventist community.
I am the Seventh-day Adventist.
I am the Seventh-day Adventist community?
No.
No.
I'm actually a 12th-day Adventist.
That's all right. Okay, this one may need a little bit of explanation. This is a painting of what's known as the Annunciation. This is the scene in the Bible in which the Archangel Gabriel tells Mary that she will be pregnant with the Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Which means we need to talk about archangels. Gabriel, we do get some discussion about how he looks. Gabriel in Daniel chapter 8 is described as having the appearance of a man, and in Daniel chapter 9, it does describe Gabriel as a man, but also states that he was swiftly flying. It doesn't state explicitly that he has wings, but the fact that he's swiftly flying could imply it. Which, it's difficult to say. You might need to read into it to say he has wings, but it's a pretty fair reading, perhaps. And in addition to that, in Luke chapter 1, where we read about the Annunciation, we read that Mary seems troubled by him, startled by him in some way. So there's something... So Gabriel looks like a man, but there's still something about him that's off-putting, in a way.
That's not much to go on, mind you. And similarly, Gabriel also appeared to Zechariah the priest in Luke chapter 1 as well. Similarly, when Zechariah saw Gabriel, he was also very startled by him, which seems to imply that once again, he looks like a man, but there's something to him that's definitely a lot more than just a man. Whether or not that's wings, whether or not that's luminescence.
Burn scars.
Burn scars.
Sorry.
Considering how many... Well, I mean, think about it this way. Seraphim and Cherubim... I mean, the Seraphim are literally described etymologically as burning ones, and they're basically constantly nearby God. Presumably, Gabriel got his message from God, so in order to do this, he would have had to have at least approached God, so you never know. With all that in mind, now that we know what Gabriel kind of looks like, he looks like a man, he's flying, which could imply he has wings, and there's something about him that's kind of off, so possibly luminescence, possibly wings. This one's fairly accurate, but it's... Once again, like I said, we are assuming he has wings.
What about him being a Caucasian?
It doesn't mention race. We had
Maybe that's what was off about him, is he was like a really white dude.
I mean, I guess, yeah, if you were living in the region of ancient Israel, and some guy walks up to you who looks like he was from, like, Scandinavia, that might be off-putting to you.
Although, they do picture Mary here as being Caucasian, which maybe implies that they're viewing her as the same race as Gabriel.
Yeah, so...
Which, I don't know. I mean, are we just ranking the biblical accuracy of the angel or of the whole image? Because I would decrease accuracy for Mary being Caucasian.
Let's just stick with the angel. We're talking about angels here. Let's just stick with how accurate the angel image is. And here, because of the ambiguity and whether or not Gabriel is supposed to have wings or not, and whether or not he's supposed to be luminescent, it's kind of hard for me to rank this as anything more than 5 out of 10. It gets most of the major things right, but, well, especially the fact that his wings are really brightly multicolored is really taking some leaps. It's like, yes, the Bible doesn't explicitly state that, but, well, the Bible doesn't explicitly state that either, you know?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, okay. I'll give him a 5.01 out of 10.
Okay. Now, this one's a second image of the Annunciation, and once again, I feel like basically all the same critiques apply. I think it overall gets the image right because it's, well, there's not much to get aside from looks like a man, there's something a little off to him, could be wings, especially given he's described as swiftly flying, so he seems to get that right. The only weird thing is the fact that he's holding like a branch of several lilies.
Right.
There's probably a lot of symbolism there that I'm not getting.
Yeah, what was the cultural view of the lilies back in the time there? I mean, well, when was this picture even painted?
I would have to check that again.
Or German or whatever.
I know lilies are often associated with Jesus' dad, Joseph.
Okay.
Why that's the case, I also don't know. So, once again, I think I'm just going to have to give this maybe, I don't know, 5, 6 out of 10? Because there's...
I'd say give it higher than 5, considering you ranked the last one just 5, and that had, like, the multicolored...
That's true, yeah. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. The fact that he's holding lilies is a weird detail that definitely isn't in the text, but it's also, like... It's kind of an innocuous thing, overall. It doesn't seem to be assuming too much of this image, so yeah, actually, I'll give it a solid 6.5 out of 10. It's pretty solid as a depiction of Gabriel.
I'll give it a 6.94. Two.
This
0.1.
This man, ladies and gentlemen.
Out of 10.
Okay.
I swear I'm not as obnoxious in real life. I'm just...
No, you're just as obnoxious. This is real life. I am with you in real life right now.
You don't know that.
We're not bringing up Descartes into this discussion today. Now, this one is a Renaissance painting of the Archangel Michael. In this image, I believe he's supposed to be killing Satan, as per what's discussed in the book of Revelation. Now, when it comes to discussions about how Michael looks, we have basically no information. I checked. I want to be absolutely certain that I didn't miss anything.
So you read through the whole Bible one more time just to look for Michael?
Yes. Michael's mentioned like a solid 4 times. He's mentioned twice in Daniel chapter 10. He's mentioned in Jude verse 9. And he's mentioned in Revelation chapter 12. And in none of these discussions of Michael do we ever get any reference to his appearance. The only thing we know about him is that he is a warrior angel. He's referred to as a chief prince. And, well, presumably he's a very powerful angel, given that he is literally able to defeat Satan. So, that's all we know about him. But if we take what we know about Gabriel, the only other archangel in the Bible... Well, assuming you're reading the Protestant Bible and not the Catholic one, we're not gonna have that. We're not gonna have that discussion of the canon today. Okay.
I think we should.
I
think you're.
I think yeah. Now I think assuming that Michael looks very similar to Gabriel, the other archangel, i.e., looks like a man with possibly wings. Mm-hmm. Once again, this is a. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, it's all good. This is not the worst depiction, but. It also assumes quite a lot with really over-the-top armor, I'd argue.
Okay, so one thing I will say is, I think the sword we could argue is, like, decently accurate because they say he's a warrior.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. You also said it had the appearance of a, like, high prince, right?
Yeah, he's described as a chief prince.
Or, yeah, a chief prince. So... in terms of the actual wardrobe, does that actually like the colors, right, and that kind of thing, like does that?
I guess that would work because it does look like that would be kind of the apparel of royalty, maybe. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know what? Yeah, I guess if you put it that way, then that might not be the worst depiction. Then, yeah, I'd still probably because I think we're still making a lot of assumptions. I'm still probably just gonna rate it a solid 5 out of 10.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to be a lot more generous with that, given your discussion there.
Not, like, significantly more, but at the same time, there's not, like, a ton to work with, right? So, like, I don't know how much I guess, like, your main critique is, like, the wings are, like, optional.
The wings are optional, the armor's not necessarily implied, and yes, he's described as a warrior, but weirdly enough, even in the discussion of him vanquishing Satan in Revelation, there's no discussion of him using a weapon. It just says he beats Satan. We don't know how. We don't know what weapon he used, if he used a weapon at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so... Tau out of 10?
Tau out of 10.
Yeah.
Checks out. And I think... Yeah, second depiction of Michael defeating Satan. And I think this one has basically all the same issues and all the same pros as the last one, so I'm just going to rank it 5 out of 10 again. It still has very elaborate looking armor, still has the wings, still has the sword, but still has the appearance of a man, which if we have Gabriel to go off of is probably how Michael looks. Mm-hmm. But once again... We are technically making a very big assumption that Michael looks similar to Gabriel just because they're both archangels.
Is that body armor, like, skin tight?
I think it's just like...
Like, we can see, like, even his nipple there, right? Like,
I think that was actually how some Roman body armor was designed.
Was it? Like, to be skin tight, or just, not, had
the impression of someone with a six-pack?
Okay,
like, they molded the steel to look like a six-pack. I've seen that in some, like, Renaissance-era armor.
Maybe I should give more points for that.
Maybe, but...
Oh, wait, Renaissance-era armor? So
yeah.
Probably not armor back then. Oh, maybe I should dock points.
Though this is also a really fascinating one, because it's like, depending on what depiction of Michael you look at, he will look different. You look at a lot of like Byzantine depictions of Michael, and he's shown in like Byzantine style armor.
Yeah.
You see these Renaissance paintings, and he's depicted in more flowery Renaissance style armor. I think the natural conclusion is that if we looked at Michael today, and assuming this trend stays constant, Michael would be wearing full tactical camouflage gear with night vision goggles and an M16 rifle.
Nice.
I think that's the biblically accurate way of...
Yeah, that's a 10 out of 10 right there.
Yeah, if we see Michael dressed up in full tactical gear, then it would be biblically accurate. Yeah. Obviously.
I'll give this one, this is going to blow your mind.
Oh, yeah?
6 out of 10.
Really?
Yeah. Just a regular good old integer 6.
All right.
Ooh.
This one's going kind of back to the biblically accurate angels we discussed earlier. This was supposed to be a depiction of a seraphim. I think overall it gets a lot right.
Yeah.
It gets the glowing aspect right. It has the 6 wings, and it's not really perfectly covering its face and feet, but it seems to be intending to. It also has like really weird long flowing hair with like the kind of traditional like ring halo above it, which is definitely not mentioned in the text, but it does get a lot of things right. It also doesn't have eyes all over its body, which is something that is constantly depicted incorrectly with Seraphim. So, I don't know. I'd like to give it a solid 7.8 out of 10.
How many wings does it have?
It does seem to have 6 wings. So we got the 2 there, 2 covering the face, two covering the feet, 2 to fly.
Yeah, although I don't know. I feel like there was no intention of snakiness in this, though.
There isn't any intention of snakiness, but I don't necessarily want to dock too many points for it because
so it's covering its body.
It is it's covering its body, and then the snake thing is kind of implicit. You know, it's like unless you know Hebrew, it becomes a little more difficult to ascertain its...
Hey, we're talking about biblical accuracy here, not whether the artist studied up on their Hebrew.
That's true. Well, why do you think I ranked it 7.8 out of 10? Too little snake?
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think I'd rate it something comparable, like 7.7 repeating, or a solid 77 out of 9.
77 out of 9?
Yeah. If you want to just express a decimal number repeating, you just make it out of 9. So like 7 out of 9 is 0.7 repeating.
Okay, fair enough.
Like 0.2 or 0.23 repeating, like the 2 and the 3 keep alternating, would be like 23 out of 99. That kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, you know what? You learn something new every day.
Yeah. Subscribe
this is why
to Bomath for more math tips.
For real. I will have a link to his channel in the description, and I will likely try to put a video of his.
You don't have to go that far. I mean, you can if you want.
I probably will.
Right,
may as well.
Thanks.
You know, you got good math videos. You may as well. This is where we get some fun things. My brother...
Isn't that from Bayonetta?
Yes. My brother suggested that we look at multiple different angel depictions from the game Bayonetta. Okay, so this first image from Bayonetta...
Sorry.
Stop it.
That was actually unintentional. I just opened my phone because I wanted to look something up, but...
This first image is from the game Bayonetta and depicts an archangel named Enrapture. So... I'm sorry, I'm going for like a solid maybe. I'm going for a 0.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's like it barely has the appearance of a man.
Yeah. I'm feeling like...
And that's like the one thing we definitely know about archangels. They look human.
Yeah, I'm feeling like a natural log of root 2 on this one.
Natural log of root 2?
Yeah. Which is equivalent to natural log of 2 divided by 2. If you remember your logarithm laws from high school.
I still need to go back on half my notes and look at stuff I've forgotten, unfortunately. Yeah. But yeah, this one's not very accurate, put it lightly. This one is a Seraphim from Bayonetta named Glamour. Now, this one has a lot of inaccuracies to it. But it does get one thing right in a way that's really fascinating.
The snaky boy and the jewels and stuff.
Yes. Yeah. It seems to be taking an extremely hyper-literal approach to the description of Satan in Ezekiel chapter 28, where he's described as having jewels all over him set in, like fillings of gold. Which, for that reason, this is quite accurate in that sense. However, it doesn't seem to have 6 wings by any means, nor does it seem to have feet, which are both features of Seraphim.
Yeah.
So it gets some of the biggest features wrong while really, really acing minor details about Seraphim that are not really explicit. So I think we should treat this in the same way we treated that one depiction of the... like that medieval depiction of the cherubim, like maybe like a solid 3.5. It gets really minor details right that most people miss, but then it gets like the really major things completely wrong.
Yeah.
It also has 2 faces. It has like the snake head here, and this upside down human face just below it.
Yeah.
I
think I'll do 2 times the golden ratio for this
2 times the golden ratio.
Yeah.
All right.
Which is like 3.2-ish.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That checks out. That works. This next one is a Ophanim named Resplendence.
That was my high school nickname.
I bet it was, buddy. Okay, so one thing it definitely gets right is that it has a wheel-like appearance with wings. And it definitely is, like, kind of gleaming, which, once again, is something that isn't as often pointed out. However... well, I'm actually just going to look closely. It's difficult to gauge if these are supposed to be gems or eyes, to be honest. So I think they're supposed to be gems.
And one could argue that, like, they got the spokes of the wheels, just not the wheels.
Yeah, that's a really weird thing. The fact that the front face seems to have that almost solar-like headdress that gives it the appearance of spokes. So it gets a lot of details right that most don't pick up on. It gets the spokes right, it gets the wheels right, it gets the gleaming appearance right.
It doesn't get the wheels right.
Oh, I think I meant to say wings right. It gets the wings right. But somehow it missed the wheel part. There's some dude motorcycling just outside his window.
Pick that up.
I don't care if they picked it up. I'm gonna complain.
Yeah, Kieran, if you have a motorcycle, Kieran thinks you're a bad person.
It's a bit of an annoyance, but it's fine. Long story short,
it's in the Gnostic Gospels.
It probably is in one of the Gnostic Gospels. Have you ever read any of that? Some of that stuff is fun to read for all the wrong reasons. I might make a video on it one day.
My favorite was when Jesus said that women need to become men in order to...
That's the Gospel of Thomas. Yeah. My favorite... I think one of my favorite Gnostic Gospels was the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, where Jesus just straight up murders like at least 3 children. Mind you, he was a kid as well.
Yeah, I mean, they had it coming to them.
They had it coming. One of them, I think, spilled a bucket of water he had collected. Hey. So he caused him to shrivel up completely.
Hey,
I mean, okay, for context, the Gnostic Gospels are a bunch of documents that were written by a group known as Gnostics, who basically believed that the physical world was kind of evil in and of itself. And they wanted to kind of piggyback on the new emerging religion of Christianity. So they forged a bunch of documents saying it was written by one of the disciples of Jesus. So when we talk about the Gospel of Thomas or the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, these were not written by the disciple Thomas. They were probably written by someone claiming to be Thomas in either the late 100s AD or early 200s AD.
long after Thomas had actually died.
Are you gonna make some videos on these someday?
I might.
You might. Yeah.
They're a fascinating topic, and they're something that gets really heavily misunderstood, like, regularly. So, hey, if you want that, I might make a video on that in the future.
Let us know in the comments.
For real.
You can also let us know in my comments, too, because they're looking kind of sparse these days.
Yes, once again, check out my boy Bomaths, his channel. I would highly recommend it. This one is supposed to be a cherubim, if I'm not mistaken.
Looks like a headless dude.
It's a cherubim named Valor in Bayonetta. I think I'm gonna have to just go with a solid 1 on this.
Yeah, there's like
there's no way of. I'm sorry. There's technically more than one face here, but it's. I'm sorry. I can't make excuses for this. It should be self-explanatory that this one's inaccurate. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Actually, why am I giving it a 1? 0. This one's just a 0.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it. You'll have fun deciphering this one later. I'm gonna give it epsilon.
Epsilon.
Out
All
of
right.
10.
Epsilon out of 10. Yeah, we'll see.
A sufficiently small epsilon out of 10.
A sufficiently small epsilon out of 10. All right. Oh, this was one that you suggested. How accurate is the outfit of Mercy from Overwatch in terms of biblically accurate angels? Well, there's.
I mean, okay,
some
it's
accuracy.
mechanical, I guess.
It's heavily mechanical.
But I mean, it doesn't say that it can't be mechanical.
I think the the implication's very heavily not mechanical, because in Zechariah chapter 5 it said that the angels he saw were women with the wings of a stork. One thing I'm going to give some
Mecha stork.
Okay, I will be a little lenient. Stork wings are kind of like white with like black shading closer to like the edges of the wings, which is kind of matched by the wings shown here. So it's not the most inaccurate. If you were trying to make a mechanical version of what an angel looks like, this isn't actually the worst depiction. I'm going to give it a solid 6.5 out of 10. Actually, no. 6.7 out of 10. We'll do that. How's that sound?
I'll give it 4 times the golden ratio out of 10.
Sounds good. Now, one thing that I think one thing that I did want to discuss is ways of improving angel designs. Now, obviously, we've had the discussion about making it more accurate to the Bible, and I think that would be an interesting thing to do. Make it as accurate as possible. But, and this is a very big but, there's room for leniency. For example, recall that the Ophanim, the wheels within wheels, are described as having eyes all over their spokes and all over their rims. Mm-hmm. But it never describes what eyes. And it's been speculated that one of the reasons these wheels had so many eyes is because many of the Israelites who were committing like really grievous sins, like even down to things as bad as child sacrifice, continued their practice because they made the excuse that, well, God hasn't judged us for our sins. He clearly doesn't even know we're doing it. He can't see that we're doing this. Mm-hmm. And so God shows up on his throne with so much vision that even the wheels carrying his throne have eyes to see everything. Which has led to an interesting thing that would add to the fun horror aspect of these biblically accurate angels. Do they have to have human eyes? Can we have variety? Because there's a lot of different style of eyes that we can work with. There's a lot of really, really weird looking eyes in the animal kingdom. Probably some of my favorites would be... let's see here. I got an image pulled up right here. For example, like cuttlefish have weird W-shaped pupils. And there's also the classic example of the mantis shrimp. The mantis shrimp has very strange looking eyes,
But I'm not just emphasizing the strangeness. The reason I want to suggest this is because it fits with the biblical theme. God shows up, showing, even by his throne, even by the angels carrying his throne, he is showing he can see everything. And the fun fact about mantis shrimp eyes is, I think we have like 3 different color, is it rods or cones that help perceive
You're the
color?
biology
I
guy,
know.
you should know.
We skipped, remember, in biology we skipped the unit on eyes.
You didn't cover that ever again in university?
Surprisingly not.
No? Oh.
I didn't take a lot of animal bio, though. That's kind of the issue. Listen.
I don't remember which is which.
Listen, one way or another, either rods or cones, we have 3 different assortments, which allow us to see visible light from a wide range. But the visible light spectrum is a very small proportion of the entire,
electromagnetic spectrum.
Yeah. And the thing is, these guys don't have 3 cones or 3 rods, whatever it is that perceives color. They have 17. Which means they are able to see ultraviolet and infrared light at the least.
Are they also able to see, the visible light we can?
Yes.
Okay.
They can see all the visible light we can, if not in more detail than we can. And they can see ultraviolet light and infrared light. So, if we take all this together, one way I would argue you could improve the design of biblically accurate angels while still maintaining this weird, almost Lovecraftian look to them, is have some variety with the eyes. If God is all-seeing, and he's clearly showing it through these Ophanim, well, make it clear that these Ophanim are more than capable of seeing everything under the sun by having all different styles of eyes.
And I think if you're going to make a mecha angel like Mercy,
Yeah.
although I guess she's not really Ophanim, but if you're thinking about eyes, for mecha designs, put little microscopes or something,
Yes.
or telescopes too,
Microscopes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or even those weird 360 camera sort of things that perceive things from all angles.
Yes. Get Jesus a GoPro.
So, what did we learn from this video?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Sorry.
Realistically, probably not much. But at the same time, I think some of the stuff we were able to discern are a lot of biblically accurate angel depictions accurate? Not fully. They capture some of the... I think a lot of people want to emphasize the horrifying, awe-inspiring, awesome, if you will, nature of angels. But they sometimes go a little bit too far. I think they draw way too far into the Lovecraftian zone. But I think there's also some room where you can do that. I mean, I already gave the suggestion with the Ophanim, but one thing that I forgot to mention, there were a lot of depictions of the Cherubim from Ezekiel, right? And they are very weird. They are very strange in appearance. They have, 4 arms, 4 heads. They're glowing and all that
I have a
jazz.
forehead.
I don't... You sure do, buddy. You sure do. But
a big one at that.
But here's the thing. I reread this actually yesterday before we filmed this, just to be certain of something, and I noticed something that you can make infinitely more horrifying than most of these depictions. If you read Revelation chapter 4 carefully, when John is describing his cherubim, he states that there were 4 different living creatures, one like a lion, one like a man, one like an ox, one like a human, each with 6 wings, with eyes all over its body, but it mentions specifically they are full of eyes all around and within. These things have eyes within their bodies, not just on the outside, but on the inside too. How is John able to see this? Well, he states that all day and night, these cherubim never cease singing, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty." So presumably, when John saw this thing, when John saw this vision and saw these angels singing, he could see in their open mouths eyes within.
Silence. The great terror looms. Ignorance is
And like, actually, that's kind of interesting in terms of like the symbolism you were talking about with the eyes being kind of like symbolic of like the Lord sees all, right?
Yes.
It also kind of almost puts like a bit of like these angels kind of like also being accountable to God, because like the Lord will see with inside the angels as well, in a sense. So that's kind of cool.
It really emphasizes how God doesn't just look at our external appearances. God knows the heart. He sees that which is
there
within
are
us.
eyes inside your body. There are eyes inside your body. Peel off your skin.
It's under your skin. It's under your skin. It's under your skin. It's under your skin. Which led me to an interesting discussion. A lot of people describe angels as being Lovecraftian, but that's not fully accurate. A lot of people associate Lovecraftian things with like tentacles and eyes and weird stuff like that, but that's not what Lovecraft was all about. His horror was looking at things that were eldritch and cosmic, things that couldn't really be understood by man, things far greater than ourselves, so great that it makes us look like bugs in comparison. It emphasizes our insignificance in comparison to what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest, for those who like Lovecraftian horror, that angels are not the thing you should be looking towards. In fact, the focal point of Ezekiel's vision might be more relevant to that. You mentioned at the start of the video the idea of a tesseract, the idea that maybe these Ophanim are higher dimensional beings, and we're seeing what's effectively like their shadow that leaks into the third dimension. This is a bit speculative. However, just a little. But to really emphasize that Halloween horror part, I do want to turn to what Ezekiel says about what he saw. Because at the very end, he describes like this glowing man on the throne, which is supposed to be God, but he doesn't say it's God. He instead describes it as the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. He provides 3 layers of separation to what he saw, which seems to indicate that Ezekiel, even though he was actually bearing witness to this, even he recognizes that what he saw is not God. It is the closest thing God could show to him that wouldn't just kill him on the spot if he actually saw it. Because, I mean, you've read the Old Testament a couple times, right?
Of course.
You'd probably know that a common fear that most of the Israelites had is that
looking at God.
if you saw the face of God, if you saw the true form of God, you would just die on the spot. And that is Lovecraftian. Think about how many Lovecraft novels depict people seeing what they were never supposed to see and going mad from the experience. And I think this is where the Lovecraftian horror is. Except it's, well, there's a mix of horror and a mix of bliss, in a sense. There are a lot of really eldritch, cosmic aspects of God which can be horrifying under the right conditions.
Yeah, like, I mean, even what we were talking about with angels, right? Like, it's very much an aspect of all these kind of depictions we saw. They're pretty good, or some pieces were good, some pieces were not so good, right? But they only got aspects of it, right?
Yes.
And even what we have in the Bible is probably only aspects of what they look like. And maybe that's because those aspects is all that, like, the people viewing them could comprehend, right?
I mean, we went over the mantis shrimp thing. The amount of the electromagnetic spectrum we can see is extremely small.
Yeah.
And there is a lot more that we are not able to see.
Yes.
So
in terms of like what you're saying, like, yeah, I'd agree. Like that, like the whole, kind of with the analogy, not necessarily literally like a multi-dimensional or like higher dimensions, but like at least with the analogy, that like, just like a square can be thought of as like the shadow of a cube, or maybe a cube is like the shadow of a tesseract or something like that, right? We only are able to kind of get like different pieces with how like kind of the descriptions of like God and how kind of that interacts with what we're able to perceive, right? And it's a very limited view, but it's kind of the best that you got, right? So and it's like one other aspect that I think really plays into the Lovecraftian horror is
one of Lovecraft's most famous quotes basically discusses that, fear is the most ancient emotion that man has, and fear of the unknown is the most ancient form of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And put as lightly as possible, even if you are really well-versed in theology, there is a lot that is unknown about God, and possibly unknowable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I constantly go back to the Trinity, because how can one being exist in 3 separate persons? I don't know. I just know he does. I know he does. I don't know the mechanism of how it works. I don't know anything like that. And more interestingly enough, I don't know why 3 persons in particular. I can understand why God is multi-personal, because God is love. And for God to be love, it kind of implies that God would have had to have the ability to love even before the world began. And if there's 3 different persons in the Trinity, then each person can love one another. So it makes sense from that angle, but it also doesn't make sense in one sense, because why are there only 3 persons? Couldn't there have been 4? Couldn't there have been 5? Well, maybe, but there isn't. And I don't know if there's an actual reason for that, aside from all 3 persons of the Godhead have always existed from eternity past until now, and forever will exist.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of speculation on why 3 necessarily, right?
Yeah.
But it is kind of like one of those things where there's just kind of like some numbers have like this sort of universal property. Like, for example, pi. How was pi found? It was found by, I think it was the Greeks. They took a circle, right?
Yeah.
They measured the circumference, maybe like took a piece of string or something, go around the circumference, right? They measured that, divided by the diameter, they got 3.14, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Took a different size circle, same thing. Really big circles, really small circles. It was just this number
It was consistent all the time.
So basically this number kind of universally embodied these circles. So why specifically like 3.14? There's people can have varying answers, but really it's like, well, it just happens to be the number that embodies this idea of circles, right?
And I think that's one of the things that emphasizes the almost Lovecraftian nature of God, at least in one sense, because it's like, these are really big questions about the very nature of God himself, and frankly, I think the best answer you can give is just, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Is there an explanation? Perhaps, but I don't know if it's actually knowable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the true Lovecraftian aspect of the Bible is.
And angels are merely a glimpse of it.
Exactly. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Share your thoughts in the comments. Did you think we were fair with our rankings of biblically accurate angels? Do you think maybe we were a little too harsh on the biblically accurate angels and maybe too lenient on the traditional depictions of angels?
How accurate were my numbers?
Exactly. Just listen, share your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more of this style of video or other theology videos I've done.
Yeah.
And check out my boy Beaumaths.
I might not disappoint you over there, so.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
And with all that being said, thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a happy and spooky Halloween and a wonderful, biblically accurate Reformation Day.
Peace be with you.